a couple of friends were backpacking on an easy route in the southern Ural Mountains in Russia. It's quite a popular route, but since it was Monday, we were completely alone there. We were going to hike to the waterfall, which was about 10 kilometers from the drop point, or train station, but decided to set camp about a third of the way on a river island, and hike light to the waterfall the next day. So here we were, on an island in a quite shallow river with lots of fords here and there. The day went in setting the camp, gathering firewood, cooking, swimming, and having fun. But closer to the evening, in the twilight, this huge lightning storm rolls over us. The sky got really dark, rain pouring from above, lightning bolts hitting mountaintops like 2 to 3 kilometers away from us. So we hurried to the tent and started playing cards and chatting. And after a while, we hear something that's, different from the constant sounds of raindrops hitting the tent roof or the rumbling of the river in shallow places. It sounded like someone was moving in the water near the island shore. We opened our tent, but couldn't see anything. It was almost completely dark out there. We thought that maybe it was some horse or a cow. Since there was a village about 10 kilometers away, the cattle occasionally wandered to that place grazing. We've seen cattle footprints in the mud on the opposite riverbank, but the sounds were as if the creature or something had 2 legs, not 4. So it was likely human, but what would a human do that far from the village? In twilight time, and under a heavy rain. We've closed our tent and sat in the silence as these footsteps were unmistakably headed to our tent. Once they stopped, like 3 to 4 meters away, we opened our tent door once again, and I shit you not, the lightning goes off at the same moment, and in the brief flash of light, we see a tall, broad-shouldered figure in a raincoat with a hood and swamp boots, and with an axe in his hand. That picture is forever imprinted into my brain, I think. So after a couple of moments that seemed like an eternity, this figure speaks.
Guys, don't leave your axe out in the rain like that.
And asks if we have vodka. Turns out he was a local fisherman. He got caught in the storm and was soaked wet, and just wanted to get warm, and vodka, apparently. So it happened that we had half a bottle of vodka that we had found on one of the other campsites and took it with us in case we needed to disinfect something. I must say that it's not your everyday Russian hiking experience to find a vodka bottle on an empty campsite, despite stereotypes. We were as surprised as you are. We traded that vodka for a big loose, which we fried in the kettle's lid later that evening, and it was one of the tastiest fish dishes I've ever tasted in my life. Happy end. I went on my first camping trip several years ago. I went with some friends who regularly visited and camped at various state parks, and since I had never been camping before, I expected them to have some level of experience and hoped that they would show me the ropes. That was a wrong assumption on my part. We were going to hike a desert mountain trail in the middle of winter because during the summer the temperatures are over 100 and in the winter it's usually around 50 or so. But not that day. That day, as luck would have it, it became the coldest day on record. We started off far too late in the day and we packed way too much stuff. We were supposed to hike to a campsite, spend the night, and hike back down the next morning. Halfway up the mountain, the wind started picking up and the temperatures began to plummet. I'm a big guy, but those winds were so bad that at one point they lifted me off my feet and threw me into the rock face with my 60-pound pack on. It was getting dark and we ended up having to break out our flashlights. However, it was so cold that the batteries began failing almost immediately. So we agreed that we should just make camp as soon as we found a clearing big enough to do so. The odd part was, half of the group just wanted to press on to the campsite. It was really difficult to convince them to make camp. They were all acting kind of, strange at that point, but I didn't make much of it at the time. We found a clearing and we started making camp. We didn't bother with fires, food, or anything. We were absolutely exhausted and freezing. I broke out my tent and got it set up. When I turned to see how everyone else was doing it, I realized that no one else had their tents up. They were all just kind of staring at their supplies and half-heartedly trying to open their tent bags. I walked over to them and asked what was going on and if they needed help, and that's when I realized how bad things really were. They were acting like zombies. Everyone was talking way too slowly, and some of the older people weren't even making sense in their replies. Just talking in gibberish or something, the same word over and over again. I really didn't know what to do, but I figured they needed shelter and heat, fast. One of my friends seemed to be doing slightly better than the others, and I convinced him to stop what he was doing and focus on getting the air mattresses inflated. Then I did something stupid, but I think it was the right thing at the time. I pulled off my gloves and scarf and put everyone else's tents together for them. My hands went numb in moments, and it was pitch black. All the flashlights were dead. I was working by starlight and by looking at the parts through my peripheral vision. The only stroke of luck / planning was that before the trip, they'd broken out the air mattresses and showed us how to pump them with a foot pump, so even in the dark and zoned out, my friend was quickly able to pump up the mattresses and break out the sleeping bags. As we got the tents prepped, we let everyone into their tents and put them to bed. Oldest first, him and I last. When I finally laid down in my tent, I was sweating like crazy, but also shaking uncontrollably. My hands were burning like they'd been on fire. My face was burning too. It was really odd. I couldn't feel my skin when I touched it, but it burned for hours regardless. At first I was going to sleep with all my clothes on, but everything was so wet from the sweat that I figured it would saturate the sleeping bag and freeze me. So I took off everything except for my underwear and just curled into the bag with my hands in my armpits. Even though it was incredibly uncomfortable, they were burning like mad, and making them hotter was excruciating. Eventually, I drifted off to sleep. When I woke up, my hands and face felt okay. I looked at them in the daylight, and though red, they didn't seem too worse for wear. My skin was really dry, and they ached for a long time. When I realized I was okay, I sat up and discovered the moisture from my clothes had made tiny icicles along the top of the tent. And all my clothes were frozen solid in parts. My socks were basically blocks of ice. I had to change clothes, and I got dressed and went outside. It was cold, but nowhere near as cold as the night before. Some of the others were up and had a burner going. Everyone was absolutely wiped out, but they were all okay. We never completed the hike and just went back down the way we came. We found out later that it had dropped to 20 below zero while we were up there, with a 40-mile-per-hour wind, and wind chill was -60. I'm not certain why I stayed functional while everyone else zoned out. I think it's because of 3 reasons. 1, the coat I purchased for the trip was rated for much colder temperatures. They had all expected temperatures in the 30s, so they had on much lighter clothing. My coat was on sale and seemed to be better quality, so I bought it instead, even though they tried to talk me out of it, saying that I was going to burn up. Secondly, I had rigged my backpack to take the weight off my shoulders. Everyone was getting worn out because we had overpacked for the trip. The straps were hurting our shoulders and wearing us out. But as luck would have it, I had 2 small bungee cords with me, so I connected the shoulder straps across my chest and put a piece of Tupperware in the center. It took all the weight off my shoulders and put it square on my chest instead. The weight balance was much easier to manage after that. Lastly, I don't honestly know if this helps or not, but I was 60 pounds overweight at the time. I was the most obese of the entire group, and I'd heard that weight helps in cold weather, but I don't know if that's true or if it's just BS. In any case, we lived, but no one wanted to go overnight camping again after that. I'm a bit disappointed, even though it was pretty bad. I still had a great experience and would love to try again. Properly prepared this time, of course. Excuse me. Yes, Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hi. My name is Zombie, and I thank you for being here. I just want to take a smidgen of your time, if I may, to talk about this video and talk about the sound quality, to be exact, to be precise. That is what I would like to discuss with you. So I got a new microphone. I don't know if you can tell. Sound quality should be 10 million times better, but you never know. So, let me know what you think. Is it better? Is it worse? That would suck if it's worse. I spent money to make the sound quality better, so if it's not better, then it's going back to Amazon. So anyway, let me know if the sound quality is better. Is it worse? Do you care? Do you not care? Yeah, just let me know. Or don't. Whatever, sprinkles your donuts. Okay, that's all. That's all I wanted to take your time for. I'm sorry for wasting a minute of your life. You'll never get up if you're still here. Yeah. So I'm gonna go. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Have a great night. Yeah. Have a great night or day. Whichever part of the road you're in. I'm rambling now, so I'm gonna go. Okay. Okay, thanks. Love you. Bye.